Fellas, thank you very much for letting us come backstage and have a chat with you.
Pleasure.
It's been an incredible year for you, actually, because you've been inducted into the Hall of Fame.
Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in America, yeah, wow.
And you know, the release of Midas.
The Midas Touch album was in the top 20.
Fantastic. And you're touring as well.
And we're touring. We're
so busy.
25-day tour all around the UK, doing beautiful theatres like this. What could be better?
Fantastic theatre.
Yeah, this is our home for the day. Then we do a 2-hour show, or maybe more, and it's a joy.
You've been going on now for nearly 50 years.
God, it doesn't seem, it's like 2 minutes, isn't it?
Does it seem like
well,
2
we used
minutes?
to play, you know, Manchester and all that. We used to play the Oasis and the Cavern in Liverpool, and
certainly doesn't seem like 50.
I mean, Manchester still has a really vibrant music scene, but what was it like then when you were sort of starting out?
It's the same.
Really?
Probably more so, really.
Yeah,
venues everywhere.
Well, you said starting out, the whole music, group music scene was starting out, you know, the homespun music. You know, there were lots of bands going before the Beatles even, and, you know, Liverpool, and probably all throughout the country. And we were creating something, like up to that time, up to the start of the 60s, it had been like solo singers and crooners and family entertainment and things like that. And, you know, then American rock and roll had hit, and Bill Haley and Presley and Little Richard. And we absorbed that, and then we got going in you know, making records in 1963. And the amazing thing was, we sort of repackaged what we'd absorbed from the American, you know, the jazz and the blues that we'd listened to as kids. And then in the 1964, we sort of exported it back to America, and the Americans called it the British invasion. They couldn't believe it, because up to then it was all one-way traffic from America.
Yeah. Did you know that you were actually in, you know, history was being made around you sort of at that time?
I don't know about history being made. It certainly felt very special, because it wasn't just the music. I mean, when we got down to London, it was the fashion. It was Carnaby Street and Twiggy and King's Road, the birth of it all. Yes, it felt very special, but didn't know we're making history, no.
Yeah, I mean, recording-wise, I mean, we were, in those days, there were only about 4 recording studios in the whole of the country, and they were all in London. Yeah. You had EMI and Decca and Pi and Philips or something like that. And so, to go down from the north of England, where, you know, 5 working lads jumped in the van, went down there, we'd audition, we'd pass the test, to walk into Abbey Road Studios, where Elgar and people like that recorded, and what we did, we went in there, did a performance, like, okay, red lights on, go, and you record your songs, your set list from what you'd done at the Oasis, and you record it onto 1/4-inch tape. There was already like 2 tracks. Yeah. That is hundreds of tracks now, you know, so you had to do it right. So all our early recordings, like the Beatles' early recordings, it was just a performance. The red light went on and you performed, and that was it. No overdubs or anything. It was a hit. In fact, well, Ron Richards, our producer, it was like, he worked with George Martin, who produced the Beatles, of course. He was used to sort of like at 10 o'clock, you know, right, red light, you did it, you performed, or 2:30 session, you started, and you did it, and you finished, you went round the pub, and that was it. You know, there was no messing around. No. There was later on, but you earn your stripes sort of thing. As the 60s went on, we could take more time, and we had all-night sessions and things like that. You know, when you got to sort of like... I bet
you've got some stories.
It was much more a natural progression. I mean, it was like your hobby. If you did it well, you hopefully achieved some success, and it all happened more slowly. These days, on these so-called talent shows, they go on there, and the next thing you know, they're doing like Wembley Stadium. You can't do that, you know. We started off in tiny clubs and then got bigger clubs and then got theatres, and you learn your trade. Did
it take you a long time to sort of find what the Hollies was, you know, were about?
Not really. It was very, very natural. Often people sort of say, how do you work those harmonies out that you do in the choruses? Well, to be honest, we don't really. I remember many years later we worked with Mike Batt, a great friend of ours, and he wanted us to routine songs, and I remember him, you know, we were sort of singing the 3-way harmony, and he'd go, hang on, this is the chord on the piano, what are you singing? I'm singing this. No, it isn't here, you can't do it. Well, I've been singing notes like that for many years, how's it sound? He said, well, it sounds great, stick with it. You know, and so it just wasn't preempted as much as it is.
We never went by the book. I think that was a sort of keynote for British bands as well, as compared to American bands, whether it was drummers or musicians. We always sort of like, we're off the wall a little bit.
You've actually had more hits than the Beatles, you know, so how would you sort of, is there one fine element of making a hit, or where do you get your influence from to make such fantastic records?
we've been travelling the world for, as you kindly commented, around 50 years, and that you draw your influences from that, particularly the early days in the States. You were just what was happening in America, the music of America, the radio in America, and you came back with stories. Stop, Stop, Stop is a typical example whereby we were taken by our record company in New York out on one evening, and they took us to a Turkish dancing
belly dancing
club.
Yeah.
And we were about 18, 19 years old. This was very impressive, and we came back with a song called Stop, 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 which tells all about the evening, and it's still one of the main numbers that we do on stage today.
And it was a big hit as well, but the guys were writing all the time. If we were touring in Sweden, there was always like a tape recorder in the van or the car or whatever, and they were always writing.
Do you ever write songs for other artists?
Other artists have covered our songs, but not specifically written.
No, not really. As Bob's, I mean, for instance, the Everly Brothers did almost an entire album of our songs many years ago, but that just happened by the way. They'd heard the hits we were having in America, and they wanted to meet us when they were in London, and we got together with them one Sunday afternoon. They said, come to the studios tomorrow. We did, and within a week or less, they'd recorded an entire album.
Wow.
Yeah, and we played.
How does that make you feel that someone is sort of is doing that? I mean, do you find that a compliment, or
it was a fantastic compliment, wasn't it? But it's what goes around comes around. I mean, in the old days, I mean, two of the guys would stand outside the, I think it was the Midland Hotel in Manchester, when the Evs were staying there, touring the country, and we were kids, and to then for the circle to come round. And we got this call, I think we were doing the London Palladium or something, and Rod, our man, said, hey, it's Phil Everly on the phone. Have you got any songs for him? And as Tony said, we went to the studio, but they did our songs. They did 3/4 of that album are Hollies songs, but we also played on the tracks as well. Tony was on guitar, along with Jimmy Page on guitar as well. Yeah, and John Paul Jones was on bass, and I was up north getting some washing done, I think, at the time. But I played on 2 tracks, I think, yeah.
I mean, you've actually toured with some amazing bands. Have you got a favourite or a particular gig that it's?
Well, little stories like when we first went to the States and we played at the Paramount Theatre in New York. We did 5 shows a day, and Little Richard was on that show, and his guitar player then was an unknown Jimi Hendrix. So things like that.
Yeah, I mean,
we used to tour with the Stones, and we would do 6 weeks tours with the Stones. And the Kinks on the
set. Tell us any stories from these times?
Don't mention Marianne Faithfull. You'll be all right then. Yeah. And it was Milky Bars, I think. Anyway, no.
Do you know, it's been lovely to talk to you. I
Milky
know
Ways.
You're really busy, and you're going to play us a couple of tracks as well now. So I just wanted to say, truly an honour to meet you both.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.